What time does your watch then?
9:15.
There you go.
Is that what your computer says? Where are we? This is kind of loud. Is this too loud?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Shabbat
Hello.
Shalom.
Karen Strock, I'm going to make you the co-host right now. So will you let people in if they come? Thank you. Amazing.
Yes, I have to jump at 10, but I can do it in.
Richard will be on at 9:30. Thank you.
Great.
So and you have to always help us keep people muted. Your hair looks fabulous, by the way. Okay, we're going to jump in. Here we go.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. I am so happy to be here with all of you. It seems like it's been a long time. I think the last time I did Minyan was definitely on Zoom from my home. Hine Matov, how good it is for all of us to be here together. Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Let's take four good Shabbos this morning. We are so delighted to be here. It is so nice to be back inside the Beit Midrash. Somebody said that Spike came and said, I haven't been here for 2 years. And it's just nice to be back in these spaces. We just think about what has been absorbed into these walls, like the music, all the people, Leah Lewis and Rachel Timoner, and all the other people who have been here and passed through and contributed their voices and their love. Oh, Emily Fagenson and Richard Levy, and so many extraordinary people have been in this space who have contributed to the energy that's present this morning. And today, on this Shabbat, we are in this space, maybe even not even for the full time of Minyan, because there's so many things happening. It's Shabbat, we're so busy. It's Shabbat, we're so busy. It's confusing, but
Yeah.
I know. As my wife likes to say, Shabbat's like the worst time. It's like the end of the week, you're exhausted, you don't want to leave home. But here, that's not true. People leave home and they want to do stuff. They want to be together, they want to laugh and sing and pray and dance, maybe even. And let's just take a moment just to be here together online or in person for this gift of our lives, for the gift of this moment of being together, and just thinking about what you want to contribute to this Shabbat, to the people in this space. And just the gratitude for being alive in this moment. We join together for Moda Ani on page 68.
Shefet The Israelites in the desert putting up their tents in their own private tents, yet all their doors were open to the community. So they were in their own personal space, yet together in community as we are here today. Try it again with me.
We continue together reading in the middle of page 76. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar umachli la'asat.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. One more time. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata tehorahi. Elohai neshama tehoratata bi tehorahi. Again we'll sing. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. 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 Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi.
We are going to continue on page 80 with Nasim B'chol Yom, and at different moments in our life, these daily miracles land differently. We bring more attention to them, and it is very hard not to be moving through each day and thinking about the fighting and horror that's happening in Ukraine. And at least for me, both Liz and I have family that came through Odessa, and we were there for Passover leading progressive Jewish communities in Odessa and north of Odessa in 2012. To think about this prayer at the bottom of page 80, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Praise to God, sovereign of the universe, who lifts up the fallen. And in a way, the people of Ukraine are doing this just like on their own. They're in a way living out this miracle of people who are lifting themselves up, not that they need this prayer. They're living this prayer in the world, but maybe we can speak this prayer and just as you're called to direct this kind of love and energy to them, to help give them that sense of lifting up their spirits and literally their bodies in this moment. Let us join together. We will chant responsively. Cantor Kates will lead us, and then we will follow.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasek v'bina le'avhin ben yom u'ben layla.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokei hivri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asuri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokev kefufi.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechi mitzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, balbish arumi.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanotein le'ayat koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir shenai me'enai utnuma me'afapai.
Amen. That's always the hardest one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
Ozer Yisrael.
Ozer Yisrael b'gvura.
Amen. We'll take every miracle.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Oter Yisrael b'tifara.
Let's do this last one together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
We continue on page 100 with Hallelujah. we invite you to rise of body or spirit for the Barchu on page 108.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalla la la la, 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 yalla la la la.
Rusty, we're getting it though. We're back together in the same space. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot. We join together in reading the English in the middle of page 112. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life, be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah.
Hello, poeshotata, uvana bacharta, lekavtanu leshimcha gedol selabemet, leodot lecham chadcha ve'ahava, baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levacha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinanta hamavanecha, vedibarta veshitecha bebetecha, uletecha baderech, uvshopecha, uvkumecha, uvshartam leotayadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, uvtatam amezuzot beitecha, uvishorecha.
If we could hear the words from Sinai, then love will flow from us, and we shall serve all that is holy with all our intellect and all our passion and all our life.
If we can serve all that is holy, we will be doing all that humans can to help the rains to flow, the grasses to be green, the grains to be golden like the sun, and the rivers to be filled with life once more.
All the children of God shall eat, and there will be enough. But if we turn from Sinai's words and serve only what is common and profane, making gods of our own comfort or power, then the holiness of life will contract for us. Our world will grow inhospitable.
Therefore, lace these words into our passion and our intellect, and bind them as a sign upon our hands and eyes. Let us write them in mezuzot upon our doors and teach them to our children.
Let us honor the generations that came before us, keeping the promise for those yet to be.
Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Our community is going through this process called Messy Together, which I think some of you are participating in, where we are acknowledging that our world is a hot mess in this moment. And I think everybody's feeling that in many different ways. But we're not going to just sit there and be with that. We want to be figuring out how to act together. And so our community organizing leadership team is fanning out through bubble-up groups and small groups and meeting people one-to-one to hear what is the mess that people are particularly interested in themselves of all, I don't know what's the plural of messy, of all the messes. What's the thing that you're most fired up about? So this past Sunday, I got to sit with the 11th and 12th graders and ask them this question too. We're talking to the 9th graders and 10th graders, and it was really interesting. The 11th and 12th graders There was about 8 of them in this group, and almost all of them spoke about all the opportunities they had, particularly around education, all the learning they've gotten to do and the travel and the exposure, different studying the arts or languages, all these different things. And it was so clear to them that most kids in Los Angeles didn't have the same access. And they felt like it was critical that everybody have the same opportunities that they had themselves, because they understood it meant after high school that they were going to then pursue more of the things that they loved. And they said that the way that you can feel the most fulfilled in the world is to do things that you love. And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. It was so inspiring. And as we were reflecting afterwards, I said, I was really surprised that none of you said anything about climate change, because we did something last year, and they said that's because we feel so hopeless about it. And I went from like this high of inspiration to just like the depths of sadness. But that is also the messiness of the world that we're in. We feel all those things at once. So as we prepare for our song of redemption, that we can remember that we can move from a place of constriction, of enslavement, to a place of freedom, that there is always this space for transformation and change, even when we think it's impossible. Let us also think about what we want to do. What voice do we want to bring to this campaign? If you haven't signed up, I hope that you do. And we really want to hear from you and hear what you're passionate about, and both what's breaking your heart and also what's giving you hope in this moment. Let's join together on page 122.
Yehuda ve'Yisrael, go aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael. El Hagidol, Hagibor, Hanura, El Elyon, טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מחכה חיים בחסד וחיי הכל ברחמים רבים צומח נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מחלמוך בעל גבורות ומדומך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמרום ככתוב ביד נביאך וקרא זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות אלוהי כל הארץ כבודו אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ ברוך כבוד אדוני מכל אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו ומכינו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ורחמיו לעיני כל חי אני אדוני אלוהיכם ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור אגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We invite you to continue in silence, standing or sitting as you choose, pursuing the words of our prayer book or the meditations of your heart.
on page 140. Sing shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha. Chen b'chesed v'rachamim. Chen b'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amecha. Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha, Sim shalom, Tova, Uracha.
Thank you, Cantor Kate. That was beautiful. We are going to prepare for the Torah service, but I just wanted to say just a note of gratitude for Cantor Gates for her heart, her soul, her gorgeous voice, and she made herself available this morning. Patty wasn't feeling well, and she sends her love to everybody. And Cantor Gates and I think a couple other people are going to head out after we take the Torah out. And I think it's because they thought I was doing the Devar Torah, but they need to go to the women's retreat. So you don't, we'll take the Torah out. You can leave whenever you need, but don't take it personally. And I wanted to ask who would like to do the Hakafah, come up with me to hold the Torah. Alan, I love it. Okay. Galila to help undress the Torah. Is someone willing to do that? Lori? Okay. And is there anyone who would want to do Hagbah today to lift the Torah? Can't do two things. You can't do two things.
I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. I'll lift the Torah. That's okay. Yeah. All right. Amazing. Okay. Invite you to rise for the Torah service on page 244.
Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, ki mitzion teitzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'avo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai Kadosh Shemo Gadol Adonai Iti Unerumema Shemo Yahad Lecha Adonai Hagedura Hagedura Hatiferet Le'anetzach Le'amon Kechol Hashemayim u'ba'aretz Kechol Hashemayim u'ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Abamama Le'amid Naseh Lechol Le'rosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Le'ishtachavu Le'ar Kosho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Le'ishtachavu Le'ar Kosho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Le'ishtachavu Le'ar Kosho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Le'ishtachavu Le'ar Kosho.
Please be seated. I am honored, delighted, pleased, acclaimed to invite up Gary Stern, who will be offering a Devar Torah this morning.
Now bear with me. The asthma reared its ugly head this week. Shabbat shalom, everybody. From my Jewish learning, the institution of the Devar Torah, literally a word of Torah, a lesson or a sermon interpreting a text, which can be delivered by anyone, lay or clergy, reflects a fundamental Jewish belief in the infinite interpretive possibilities of Torah. This concept is best articulated in the Mishnah Avot 5:22, quote, turn it and turn it, for everything is in it. And in the rabbinic assertion that each person who stood at Sinai saw a different face of Torah. Infinite interpretive possibilities, indeed. Here we are, our entrance to the book of Leviticus and the Parashah Vayikra, where we encountered God instructing Moses on the 5 different kinds of sacrifices that were to be offered in the sanctuary. A parashah about behavior foreign to the modern ear, about animal sacrifice, burnt offerings, meal offerings, the sacrifice of well-being, the sin offering, and the penalty offering. The standard challenge for the interpreter is to find meaning today from words and actions that on their face have no relevance to us in modern times. This challenge is actually not unfamiliar to the modern American Jew. The American legal establishment, lay leaders and thinkers have been debating our Constitution since its adoption at the end of the 18th century. Do we look only to the original intent of the founders, or is the document a living thing to be adapted to later times? And so our task is to do the following. What does the text say? What did it mean over 2,000 years ago? And what do these words say to us today? Our Reform Movement's online Torah study page offers a wonderfully succinct summary of Parsha Vayikra, knowing that it would likely be studied mostly as a whole and less likely verse by verse. Vayikra continues the story of Moses, the Israelite people, and their journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, guided by a God still evaluating, still testing, still hoping for a people who will follow the word of God and thus be deemed worthy of being chosen by God. Part of that relationship between the wandering Jews and God took place at the tent of meeting, the holy place for worship. At this place, we learn about a sacrificial system established by God as a precondition for entering the tent of meeting. God instructs Moses as to 5 types of sacrifices that a congregant is to offer at or in the sanctuary. Olah, or burnt offering, a voluntary sacrifice, has great sanctity. The standard offering, actually, involving an animal. Mincha, or meal offering, food and spice staples given to the priests to eat. Zavach Shalamamin, the sacrifice of well-being, a voluntary animal offering sometimes brought to fulfill a vow. Chatat, or sin offering, an obligatory sacrifice to seek forgiveness for unintentional sins. And a sham, or penalty offering, also obligatory, required of one who had misappropriated property. Rabbi Devorah Weisberg says that, quote, the book of Leviticus assumes that offerings of animals and grain, sometimes accompanied by libations of wine or oil, are appropriate expressions of gratitude toward God and mechanisms through which one atones for sins. But she notes all this animal cruelty, slaughter, throwing around blood on the altar, the burning of animal flesh seems pointless at best and offensive at worst. And pretty much by the time of the great commentators hundreds of years later, the way in which these ancient rituals were evaluated was to look at the intention behind the ritual, not the rituals themselves. The classic interpretation of the ancient intention was that these rituals were designed to permit the individual to draw closer to God, that there were special times when it was imperative that a person have that ability to draw especially near to God, for example, when seeking forgiveness for a sin. Rabbi Weisberg then says, quote, sacrifice offered a concrete avenue for relating to an unseen and unknowable being. We understandably view prayer as a more civilized mode of connecting to the divine than animal sacrifice. However, when we let go of our discomfort with the sacrificial system for a moment, we can acknowledge the power it held for the Israelites. The very elements that disturb us, and may have disturbed some ancients, make sacrifice so visceral and captivating. Cantor Jill Abramson comments upon a teaching from Rashi and says more broadly, quote, Leviticus is all about sacrifice. Whether it is the slaughter of chickens or the gift of grain, it becomes a true sacrifice when we give everything we've got, when we pour our heart and soul into the matter. When describing the bringing of sacrifices, the Torah rightly refers to a person as a soul because every sacrifice we make in our lives needs to take a piece of us, needs to take a piece of our soul. Cantor Abramson then reminds us of a beautiful part of our modern liturgy. We sung it earlier. Elohai neshama shenatata bi, or the soul that you have given me, O God, is a pure one. She refers to purity of intention, the purity of the soul. Now, I think we're getting to the heart of the matter for the modern Jew, the modern person. Does personal sacrifice draw us closer to God? Does God call us to sacrifice at special moments in our daily lives? After all, Vayikra means, and God called. And the word for sacrifice is korban, from the root kuf resh bet, meaning to bring near. If we assume, as most commentators, that prayer is the modern substitute for sacrifice, is that actually enough? What if one has a difficult time, even as a spiritual person, with the existence of even a one God? Can we still relate to personal sacrifice as drawing us closer to something approaching, here's the phrase, a purpose-driven life? I was having trouble getting to where I thought Vayikra was speaking to me. And then I suspect many others feel the same way until I read Rabbi Paul F. Cohen, who said that the essential lesson from Vayikra was, quote, if it can be broken, it can be fixed. Aha! If you build it, they will come. If it can be broken, it can be fixed. Or, if I'm broken, can I be fixed? Better yet, can I fix me? And if I do, or at least make the attempt, am I drawing closer to the pure soul of which I was born, and thus closer to God, even if I might be inclined to resist that direct linkage to the one God of my faith? In all the commentaries I came across, I never saw a direct focus on personal sacrifice as the ultimate expression of my respect for others, my respect for my family, my temple, my community, my world. But I believe that is a fair and appropriate way to read Vayikra. In recent weeks, I found out just how broken I was. A seemingly minor change in my stamina level and the loving nagging of my wife, Sandy, to go see my cardiologist led to a CT scan, the discovery of an almost complete blockage in my main coronary artery, transfer to the ER, and then to the cath lab for placement of 2 stents. On the very brink of having to arrive at the pearly gates to explain why I had not made a genuine attempt at fixing myself through achievable sacrifice, I was saved and given a chance going forward to fix what is broken. For all my childhood and adult life, I did very little sacrificing when it came to food. You said portion control, and I said like hell. Given another chance, I have decided that a little sacrifice goes a long way to reclaiming my health, my vitality, and ultimately my soul. And that led me to some strong feelings about the value and importance each of us has to our family, friends, community, and the people of our planet. I guess you could call it the George Bailey phenomenon. Most of us do a pretty poor job of recognizing our wonderful lives and what we mean to those we love and to our community. How profound is the loss due to our recklessness and when we live only for ourselves. Then there are those who succumb to a depression so deep that they leave their loved ones behind with a pain that they will never overcome. I feel so frustrated that a greater power did not take hold to show them just how wonderful a gift is their life. Call it sacrifice, prayer, belief in that still small voice that says you matter, you count, and you have so much to give. This concept of the pure soul I find to be incredibly powerful. There is something downright magical about living life every day, determined to fight off the infection that would otherwise deprive us and those who love us of our essence, our purity. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. May it be forever so. Amen.
I know it looks like I just want to make a personal announcement to all of you, but I'm not. I'm just changing something. And it's awkward, but it's what's happening. Okay, amazing. It's on the speaker. I'm doing one last thing because we're preparing for Bill to share the wisdom of his Torah chanting with us. And there's just one last thing I have to do so I can enable you to unmute yourself. Okay, amazing. Okay, it's done. we're together. Okay, incredible.
Is that good?
Yes, we're not quite there, but we're getting very close. Thank you, Bill. Yasher Koach. Yasher Koach is actually perfect for Gary because Yasher is like upright and strength, like strength of the upright. And so you modeled that today, being here. And it's not just that, oh, is this your, yeah. It's not just that he survived. It's that after that, he was like, I think I'm gonna write a Devar Torah and share it. So maybe that none of you have to have that life-threatening moment in your life to choose to sign up to do a Devar Torah. I'm not gonna call out particular names or look at individuals. I won't do that. I would never do that at any one person, but like, it is a gift that Gary often offers, and Bill often is very gracious in chanting Torah, and we really, you can't, we can't get your Torah, only you can give it to us. So really, as you're called or as you're called upon, invite you to offer it. And next Minyan, we have someone who's never done a Devar Torah before, who's going to be offering that. And we've met a couple times, it's been amazing. And so if it's something you'd like to do, the clergy team is always willing, and other people are willing to meet and reflect with you. Okay, so with that said, we have for today's Torah reading, I think all of you have it here. It's from the very beginning of Leviticus, and it is chapter 1, verses 1 through 10, and Dr. Rabbi Bill Cutter will be chanting. We have 3 aliyot. The first aliyah is going to be for people that are in a moment of transition. We're moving from Exodus into the next book, into Leviticus today. And sometimes there's very big things that mark changes in our lives, and sometimes it can be very small things. But if you are concluding a chapter, maybe it's one that you're not even choosing to have concluded, but it's happening in your life, or you're seeking to leave something behind and move to a new space, we invite you to rise for the first aliyah. For the second aliyah, if there is a simcha, a joy, no joy, too small, that you would like to share with the community, I invite you to come up for that one. And if you are online, I'm going to ask that you just put the simcha in the chat box. And then Richard Cohn has graciously offered to read it aloud when it is the right time. And then for the final simcha, we're going to offer blessings to Steve and Sandy for their upcoming wedding. And if you're also getting married, you can also come up. Okay. So with that, if you want to come up, you could also stand at your seat. We're in a whole new universe of trying to figure out how to do this. The blessings are on page 250, and I will follow along as Bill chants. Let me put the yod at the very beginning. And if you want to come up, if you're in a moment of transitioning from one chapter in your life to another, or if you wish you could be doing that and would like to do that, invite you to either rise in your seat or come on up, whatever you're comfortable with. And everybody could be on 250, and you could, come on up. Yeah. Watch out for the avocado. You gotta maybe place it over here. Yeah, that's the last thing we need. Okay, 250. Yeah, right here. Baruch Adonai Baruch Adonai Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher barakanu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikra el Moshe v'yedaber Adonai elav me'ohel moed lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta elehem Adam ki yakriv mikem korban l'Adonai min ha'behema min ha'bakar u'min ha'tzon takrivu et korbanchem Imula korbano min habakar, zachar tamid yakrivenu, el petach ohel moed, yakriv oto, lirtzono, lifnei Adonai.
Amen. May the source of life and strength, of wonder, of wisdom, of heartbreak and healing us in these moments of transitions as we move from one place to another, as we conclude a chapter and begin another anew. May we feel that we have the strength and courage to be in that space of transition, to let go of what we need to let go of and to embrace what is ahead. Amen. If you have a simcha in your life and would like, you can stay up here. You can be up here for all aliyot. If you have a simcha in your life, or if you are, if you're online, if you could put it in the chat box so that Richard could read it in a second. I invite you to come up for the second aliyah.
Nothing like a disembodied voice
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Baruch Adonai Habarach Leolam Vaed. Bill Cutter.
V'samach yodo al rosh ha'olah v'netza lo lechaper alav v'shachat et ben habakar lifnei Adonai v'hikrivu b'nei Aharon HaKohen et hadam v'zarku et hadam al hamizbeach saviv ishep petach ohel moed v'hifshit et ha'olah v'nitach ota linatacheha, to its little pieces. That's it.
Amen. 2, 1. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Amen. Let me just ask, Richard, are you able to read aloud if anybody put a simcha in the chat?
I am, but I should start with Mara's line to Gary, which he could not see. Yashar Koach, and thank you for those beautiful words of wisdom, Gary. I love the connection between Korban and Karov. And now we have 2. Glenn Gottlieb says, my niece Hannah Lottenberg turns 23 on March 19th and Yasha Koach to Gary.
Okay, would you guys like to share the simcha in your life?
My mother Wilma will be 87 next week, but she's still 7 years shy of my father, who's approaching 94.
One of my oldest friends in the world. We've been friends since we were 5 years old. Is going to be in town this week, and we're going to get together.
Well, we have a shower for our daughter-in-law to be next weekend. And then I don't know how the Saturdays will work. So on April 22nd, they're getting married. Our son and daughter-in-law to be. So Eric and Danny, and only good things.
Amen. It is so great both to hear the appreciations for Gary and also just these things that are sparks of joy. They're things that we look forward to when we're present for them. They delight us. They bring family together. All of these things, it's so nice to have these back, not just markings on the calendar, but there are these opportunities for connectivity that is so important in our world. So may it be that we go from joy to joy to joy, and may we feel them amplify in our hearts and in the world. Amen. Yeah. With this beautiful Torah out in front of us, we now bring our attention to those that are struggling. I don't know if people knew Shirley Mantel. She was a member of our community. She was 93 years old and she died last Friday, and her memorial was this Tuesday. And I guess for 50 years, every time she got off the phone with someone, she said, take care of your mind, body, and soul. For 50 years, she was so far ahead of her time. And everybody that I talked to, and most of the people who spoke about her, said every time she concluded a conversation, she always said, take care of your mind, body, and soul. And you could feel like that imprint on them. Not just that she said it, but they were kind of called to really reflect on it. Am I caring for my mind, body, and soul? And our Misha Berach is calling us also to not just think about those in the world, but even ourselves. We're all struggling in different ways. But if there is somebody that you're thinking of, to invite you to say their name aloud. And I will come over first to those that are joining us, and I will put us on gallery view. And if you are wanting to just share somebody that you are thinking of so that we can also hold them in our heart, invite you just to raise your hand like this, and I'll call on you and you can say their name out loud. Yeah, Judith.
My brother, long deceased, is on my mind all the time. His name was Ronald Flesh.
Thank you. Peachy.
Rosmos.
Anyone else who's online? Okay. Are there other people that are here in the space that would want to speak a name out loud? Yes, Steve.
My friend Barbara Seidman.
Invite you to turn to page 253 for the Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBrachot Leimotenu, with the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Imotenu Mikor HaBrachot Lavotenu. Shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Amen. I want to invite Steve and Sandy for the final aliyah. Come on down, come on up as it goes. And Bill, if you are not already unmute, you can just unmute yourself. Baruch Adonai Habarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Habarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Baruch Abonu B'Kol Hamid V'Natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah. Amen.
You ready for me?
Always, Bill.
One comment to add to Gary's sensitive and really luminous comments is as I prepared this, I realized it's the very Torah portion that a lot of folks kind of chuckle at for its detail. And then I realized it's a statement about the right way to do things. There is a right way to do things in certain worlds. And that's a very rich idea. And it adds to Gary's comments about sacrifice, which will soon be played out on the fields of Ebbets, or whatever we call it. In any event, I am prepared to say, V'natnu v'nei Aharon HaKohen, Eish al HaMizbeach, V'archu etzim al ha'esh, V'archu b'nei Aharon v'ahakohanim, et ha'netachim, et rosh ve'et ha'peder, al ha'etzim, asher al ha'esh, asher al ha'mizbeach, v'karvu, excuse me, v'kirvo v'uchora'av, Yerchatz b'mayim, v'hiktir ha'kohen et ha'kol ha'mizbecha, Ula isha reach nichoach l'Adonai, v'im min hatzon korbano, min haksavim o min ha'izim la'ula, zachar tamid yakrivenu.
Amen. I'm just so happy. I'm so happy. There is a commentary that if you were to just keep one of the books of the Tanakh, it would be the Song of Songs, because it's just about a love song between the divine and the Jewish people. And I think really at the heart of our teaching is two things. One is about moving from a place of constriction and tightness to freedom, which we have to believe is possible at all times for not only ourselves and our souls, but for all people, and that we work to make that happen in the world. And the second is to just open up to divine love that is with us at all times. And it's so hard to do. It's so hard to feel that presence of the divine with us, and that love is around us at all times. And sometimes the way we feel it most is when we have a dear friend or a beloved or even a pet that just gives us this love, and we just can look in their eyes and receive it. And whatever they do, they make it possible to receive that love. And that is like a taste of that extraordinary divine love. And that is what brings healing in the world as well. So, Mishabera Chavotenu V'imotenu, may the one who honored those who came before us honor the two of you. May you be in that space of love, of awakening. May you be each other's partners through thick and thin. There's nothing easy about being in a partnership in this world, be it with the divine or anybody. May it be that you go from strength to strength, and that together that you're both strengthened, that you are able to really tap into that love deep within your souls and offer that freely to each other and others around you. May you be blessed. Amen. Invite you to rise as we lift and then dress the Torah. You can help lead the singing as I lift the Torah on page 252. Amen.
And that's why we have a professional
Hello.
job. For
Exactly. All right. Okay, we continue on page 256, Eitz Chaim. Please be seated. Okay, well, we're back in person, which means we get to do the teaching in the middle of the session. I know. Okay, this is actually going to build off very nicely. Spike, would you help me with that? And Richard, I don't know if you can drop in that link from the teaching. Do you have it there, Richard? I sent it to your email. If not, I'm happy to do it. You got it, Richard? Can I get a thumbs up? Yeah.
I'll get it.
Okay. So this teaching today, this is in honor of Rabbi David Sperling, who's my Bible teacher. And I think it's actually just a good lesson for all of us as we because I'm pretty sure you're all going to sign up to do a Devar Torah now. That was so compelling before. But his primary advice when studying Torah is just go really slow. Go really slow, because each word in each verse has incredible meaning, and it's easy to just miss things. And when you go slow, you'll notice that some words they'll kind of just jump out at you, and they'll just kind of grab onto you, and you'll want to understand them more. And then there's different tricks you can do to see where these words show up in other places, because we know when you look at the Torah, there's no periods or commas or vowels, and it didn't come with a dictionary explaining what all the words meant. So the way that we understand what the words in Hebrew mean is we have to see where they are in other places. And in some of them, there's some words that only show up once, which is called hapaxlegomenon, which is a really fun word to have in your pocket, hapaxlegomenon. Yeah, this Jewish guy from Alaska taught me that. It was his favorite word in my rabbi class. So one of the words that jumped up to me that was very informative for me, and I actually taught this word, I don't know if people know this, when I interviewed here, it's very intense. You guys have probably been part of these rabbi interviews. They're like 2 days of high intensity, being with people, very relational, teaching, all that stuff. And the second night I was here for 3 nights. The second night I was invited to do a teaching for the board. And I won't say who it was, but someone told me, I asked how long, she said 50 minutes. I was like, oh, that's like a long time. And it was in a room, and everybody was kind of like pushed back. I like to move around a little bit more. So it wasn't a great setup for me. It went okay, it didn't go great. I didn't feel great. I asked Liz, she was there. She's like, it was okay, which is bad. Like if she's not really supportive, it was bad. And the next morning, Ken gave me a ride to the temple, and I didn't know Ken at all. And I said, I would love to just reflect on last night. He's like, well, what did you think? And I was like, it didn't feel so great. He was like, it went kind of long. And which, like, no offense to Rabbi Jason, but when a rabbi tells you went long, you're like in trouble. And I was like, well, she said 50 minutes. And he said, no, it was supposed to be 15. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I'm not getting this job. I'm not getting this job. And the next day, that was my last day. And then the final thing I was doing was meeting with the search committee that night. And I had this whole long fakakta, Talmud, halacha, transgender camper study thing that I had worked on in rabbinical school. And you want to share the tiny things that you know. And I scrapped it. And I focused on this verse. And I focused on this verse, and I focused on this one word, which I included, even though it was a little bit awkward. It was in verse 10. Probably Bill could have just read 1 through 9, but I asked him to read verse 10 because it has this line, which talks about the zakar tamim. It talks about what type of offerings you make. It's a male without blemish. And it says that he shall offer voluntarily in the will at the tent of meeting before God. And so I was just like, why does an animal need to be without blemish? Like, what could that possibly mean? And that led me to the word tamim. So before I jump in and we go a little bit further, I'm curious, like, why does the divine want you, if you're bringing an offering, like, why would you offer one without blemish? Like, what would that signify? And for people that are online, you can just unmute yourself. And then I'm going to ask Richard, if you don't, just to remute yourself. If that's okay. So just jump right in. Is there anybody online? Like, why would we be called to offer an animal for sacrifice? I mean, it's going to be sacrificed anyway. It's going to be burned up. Why would it need to be without blemish? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, it's supposed to be perfect and perfect.
So you want to offer something that is perfect for your saying for the divine, which you think of is meant to be perfect too. Okay. Although the divine is such a mess, right? Doesn't the divine get angry all the time? But it may be on a good day. Aspirationally, divine should be perfect, right? Okay, Sandy.
About giving your best. Right.
Giving your best. Yeah.
But I also want to say that this word that's come up in discussions with parents like myself who have special needs children, and for some, it's very offensive.
Yeah, Sandy was saying for folks that are online that this word tamim is sometimes seen as offensive to people that have kids with disabilities or whatever, because it feels like, oh, well, can they, I mean, not that you want to sacrifice your kids, the divine at an altar in Israel, but anyways, I understand, yeah. Okay, so let's come back to that. Thank you for sharing. Let me just ask, anybody online why would we need to make an offering of an animal without blemish?
It's Brian Rose. It ties into what Gary was saying. It has to do with paying attention, showing up. You didn't just grab an animal. You were doing it with consciousness and thinking about it while you were doing it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, I see two hands here, Lori and then Marilyn, and then, yeah.
I think I see it, particularly with what you said about the blameless connection here, as a kind of psychological innocence.
Ooh, psychological innocence. I like that.
So without baggage.
So you're saying, okay, so you're going next level. So we're not talking about that this animal has psychological innocence. You're just saying it's meant to be representative or symbolic.
Right.
Okay, of the person who's giving it.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful, love it. Marilyn.
I was gonna say wholehearted, the word wholehearted.
Wholehearted, and you see it in the next line.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the animal is wholehearted?
No, the person who's giving.
Again, so you're thinking representative.
Yeah.
The animal should be without blemish, and that we should give it without any blemish ourselves, any spiritual blemish.
Well, if we give somebody something that we feel is important, we want to do it with whole heart, not just, oh boy, I really want to do it.
Right, is there an example you're thinking of?
Well, and apropos, I work with deaf kids.
Yeah.
You probably know, and I love working with them, and I've worked since I'm many years, and I love every moment of it.
And you think when you bring that love of it, it changes what the nature of the offering is as it's received.
Oh, yeah.
I would think so.
I love to do it.
Yes, and we have all had teachers who don't do that. Who you're like, everybody knows we're laughing because it's true. I mean, it's true with anything when you show up and you feel like the person is not sincere, offering it with a whole heart.
Right.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Laura, did you want to add something? And then we'll see if anybody online. Yeah.
Well, so the word purity comes to mind when I read without blemish. However, I also think that that species can be without blemish externally and quite blemished internally.
Oh, yes.
That's very true. That's true for all of us. Yes.
If you're just looking on the outside.
Right. So Laura's saying sometimes the outside isn't representative of the inside, even the physical well-being.
Right.
Some people can look like very healthy and then,
Right.
yes. Okay. Let me just see if there's anybody else online, and then we're going to jump to the next one and then we can come back. Anybody else online wanted to share anything? Okay. I will read the next one. This is from Deuteronomy, and you'll see that the word tamim is repeated at the beginning of this verse. It says, you must be wholehearted with Adonai your God. Those nations that you're about to dispossess do indeed resort to soothsayers and augurs. To you, however, Adonai your God has not assigned the like. So this is in Deuteronomy. This is as they're preparing to go into the promised land, and they're saying that you have to be wholehearted. You have to be tamim. Tamim tihiyeh. You need to be tamim with God, whatever this, again, in one place it's blemish, here it's saying wholehearted. God is calling us forward to be tamim, whatever that looks like. Us as a people, before we go into a promised land, we don't have people like soothsayers and augurs who are gonna help us along the way. In a way, we have to be ourselves, those people. We have to bring, as you're saying, Marilyn, like that fullness, that wholeness inside of ourselves as we are venturing into a new land. And we have to be that way with the divine, and some might argue with other people, like that people really know when we're not, and that happens for better, for worse. Sometimes we're distracted, we're stressed, we're late, or whatever it is. And it's hard to harness that kind of inner, connecting to the inner core. It's not always that people have malintent. It's sometimes we're just overwhelmed. Often we're overwhelmed. Yeah. Any questions or reflections on this second text from Deuteronomy for people online? Okay. Amazing. This third line, this third verse with Tamim, I think really connects to this last one. But so in here we are encountering Noah, and this is a line that's familiar with many, which is saying that this is the line of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, and he was Tamim in his age. Noah walked with God. And here, again, we can call it, we're assigning an English word to a Hebrew word, but it doesn't mean that it's the right one, right? So I'm saying like that he was Tamim in his age. So here they translate it as blameless. We go from without blemish to wholehearted to blameless. Okay, so what does it mean? Like, what are we understanding that they're saying that he was blameless in his age, focusing more on the blameless part? Yeah, Sandy. Hmm.
Can be different at different times throughout history, or maybe in different worlds and universes, of what being pure or what being the best we can be would be.
I love that. So at different, I mean, and that's certainly true. We've all either worked in different places, or even we know our family, and then we go to our friend's family, and there's just different expectations about how we show up in those spaces, and expectations are really different. And in those different contexts, and certainly in different ages, the expectations are really different about what it means to be a good person. And this is one of the things the rabbis are always saying about Noah is like, I don't know, was he a tzaddik? I mean, would he have been today? Like, it was a horrible time. I mean, it was like, talk about a time of a hot mess. The time of Noah was supposed to be a total disaster, and that people were really cruel and mean and doing horrible things. And that within that context, Noah, who today would have been like, meh, he would have been like, okay, not incredible maybe, but in that time, he was really a tzaddik. He was really a righteous person, and he was Tamim. He was Tamim in his age, right? I see Gary, did you want to? Oh, I did, okay, thank you. You probably taught that to me, one of your other Divrei Torah. Is there anybody online who wants to comment on this verse from Noah? It's hard, right? It's hard to do this. Okay, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna come to this last line, this last verse, which is the one that I for me was very helpful. Here we are meeting Abraham. This is a pre-Abraham. Abraham is the father from Ram, and here this is before he is transformed into like the father of the multitudes. Okay, and it's saying when Avram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Avram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai. I'm one of these forms of the divine. Walk in my ways and be to me. If you do this, I will establish my covenant between me and you, and I will make you exceedingly numerous." So here again, we are encountering this word tamim. It says, if you walk in my ways, if you take on this covenant, you will be tamim. And so he's not tamim yet. He will be in a process of becoming tamim. So what do they mean in this context? How might you interpret this? What is God offering? I mean, it's like a big commitment. I mean, you have to follow all these rules. We know that most in our community don't want to follow all the rules of our tradition. And Abraham, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. So what does it mean to be becoming tamim? What might you think this could mean in this context? Yeah, Lori.
I'm just commenting this. Does it mean that to be in relationship with the divine, the animal, whoever, needs to be as pure as the more pure you are, the more room there is for relationship.
So Laura's saying the more pure but in a way it's saying, you're saying that the more pure you are, the deeper or the better, the animal without blemish can be in deeper relationship with the divine, but in a way, this is saying you will become this thing if you choose to walk in the way. So it's kind of like before that. Do you see what I'm saying? Because that it is saying hitolech lefanai v'yihyeh tamim. That if you walk, but really, before me, if you walk in my ways, you will become this thing. Not that you have to be this thing. That's I feel like that's the upside. Like you don't have, being tamim, being without blemish. Who here is without blemish? Internally or externally. Certainly not at our age. You know what I mean? So.
But walking in the ways of the divine makes you.
Okay, so say more about that. What would that mean to make you that way? What's the way? That your skin looks amazing? You know what I mean? What's the thing? Yeah, Trudy, what were you gonna say?
We say you'd be blessed.
That you would be blessed. So you have a sense of becoming blessed as you walk in the ways. If you take on the covenant, you're in an ongoing process. Yeah. And you're doing it wholeheartedly. Yes, I love that.
So what comes to mind for me is just purposeful journey.
Purposeful journey.
Purposeful journey.
Right.
With a partner.
So Laura is saying that you have a feeling that you are in a state of becoming, and maybe even have a sense of meaning, that your life has meaning as you are walking in these ways, which is it's very rabbinic to say that. Yes, Sandy and then Marilyn. And then let's see if there's anybody online. Please get ready. I'm going to come to you in a second.
Additionally, it seems to be a need to stretch yourself
Mm.
maybe beyond what is mundane and
Mhm.
what's there, and try to understand something that is more abstract and beyond.
I love that, stretching to something beyond. Absolutely. Yeah. And that is part of the process of becoming. We're always in that state of becoming, obviously. But that you are saying, and maybe what would you say you're stretching towards?
Towards some kind of understanding of El Shaddai.
Right.
Or this new kind of deity that isn't a statue.
Right. So maybe it's this idea even of this korban that Gary was talking about. At the root, an offering is drawing close. And so if we commit to these things as we are becoming, part of what we're becoming is closer to the divine. I love that. I don't know if that's what you were saying, but.
Yeah, and then blameless means that even if you make mistakes along the way.
Right, that you're forgiven. Yes, I love that. Marilyn, did you want to add something?
I felt that it was when you do the things that you know are the right things to do, it gives you a lot of stronger feeling that that's the right thing. And
Yeah.
It's an interactive way, in a way. In other words, in your heart of hearts, if you really do what you know is the right thing, it will come back and it will be solidify that kind of look out in the world and how you act.
Yeah, I love that. I know that that feeling. What affirms the feeling of what Marilyn is saying is if I hear you correctly, is that when you do what's right, particularly when it's a hard choice, and you can feel that it's almost like a stepping stone that you can really plant your foot on, versus when you know you've made the wrong choice, that was maybe an easier choice or a less courageous choice, that all of a sudden you just feel kind of wobbly. You feel less closer to becoming who you aspire to be in the world. That's beautiful. Thank you. Is there anybody online who would want to reflect on understanding tamim in this last context of becoming tamim by embracing the covenant? I only get to see Brian Rose for some reason, which is amazing, but no pressure, Brian. You have to. Okay, well, this, just to kind of bring us together on this journey of tamim in all these different ways, my professor, Dr. Sperling, kind of coming back to this first thing of why are we offering a zachar tamim? Why are we offering this, a male animal without blemish? It's because it's if you were to make an offering to the divine, you probably wouldn't serve up McDonald's. Like you would get the best, tastiest, freshest, most organic, free range, whatever it was, with the freshest ground spices and cook it and bring it over while it was still hot. Like you want it to be the best, most delicious, most fabulous thing. And, you know, to your point, Marilyn, it's like, wouldn't it be easier? I mean, if you had an animal that wasn't well, to offer that animal in place, right? And I think this question of what Sandy's saying is thinking about what does that mean? And it feels so superficial that it would be some sort of external. And that's why I think it's interesting to look at this. You know, what is it that you're really offering? And so when we offer something to divine, it should be like something we're gonna feel it. Like we're gonna feel the cost of it. And this way, they're living in an agrarian time. So their healthiest animals are critical for their survival. They're the ones that they're using for mating. They want them to be the ones that live longer. They come out of particular lines. So to offer the best of what you have means that you're really giving something up. You know, like you really feel that. And I think Rabbi Bernie talks about this with the word chesed. I love this teaching of hers. Is that chesed is often just translated as loving kindness, but that it should be like a love that is like stretching your heart. Like it should be something beyond what is easy for you to love that might be a stretch to something more than you're even ready to give. And the way that I have understood this last one, and I hope that you've all had a taste of this experience in some way or another, but that when we are like walking with the divine or walking in the ways, if we're davening at Minyan or we're lighting candles, if we're with our family for Passover, whatever that thing is, that we feel ourselves yihiyeh tamim, that we feel ourselves becoming the best of who we can be, you know? And so I've always loved this word tamim because I think it's like acknowledges that we can always be better and that the divine is meant to be there with us on this journey of becoming the best of who we can be. And everybody's in a different place. It doesn't mean we're trying to reach perfection. And I certainly don't think of the divine as being perfect, and I don't think you do either. But, you know, I think this idea of becoming tamim is such a beautiful intention to bring to the world. And then it comes back just to Sandy to say, like, everybody is where they is. Everybody is where they are. And whatever our internal or external blemishes are, that we have this capacity to be walking with the divine and becoming a little bit more tamim. And I think that's just true for all people, you know, whatever the aspects of our life are that we don't feel great about. So, or that we're challenged by, or we need to be stretched by, or are things that we were born with that aren't of our doing, that we're in some ways already are more tamim because we're living with those things. So I would love to have a longer conversation about that and how people hold it. Did you want to add something, Trudy?
The way they word this, I mean, we all interpret it in our own way. But the way they did this, the way they wrote this is that there's better and worse, that if you have imperfections, you're worse, you don't measure up. I mean, to Sandy's.
But I'm just looking, we look at a word used in different contexts. So they're not, when they're talking about the animal, the male animal they're offering, they're not saying this animal is blameless. It's an animal. They just care, is it attractive? Is it beautiful?
But it doesn't apply to.
But it's not, when they use tamim in the last one, or with Noah, they're not saying he was the most beautiful guy of his age. You know, they're saying that he was a good soul. And when it says, walk in my ways and be blameless, it's not talking about skin care. You know, it's not talking about the physical piece. It's about what we are striving to become. And this is, you know, I mean, we have this in English. Different words have different meanings in different contexts. So they're very distinct. So I just want to say, like, for when they're talking about humans becoming tamim, it's not about a physical element. It's really about what are you striving to become. At least that's how I understand it. Maybe you would translate it differently. That's the beauty of working from Hebrew to English, but different words, mean different things in different places. Gary.
One of the things I didn't include in my teaching was that we discovered in research is that in the ancient times, this chapter, this opening of Leviticus, was the very first thing that was ever part of the religious study or study for children. That when children began their Torah study, they began with this chapter because this notion of purity, this notion of the lack of blemish, tamim, was felt by the teachers to be vital in terms of starting a child off understanding the Torah as a whole.
Where was this?
In the research I did.
No, but what context? Because people have been studying Torah.
Way back. In other words, within a few hundred years, or hundreds of years after when you get into the time of Rashi and some of the other commentators, the early Torah study began in Leviticus.
Yes, Marilyn, and last comment, and then we're going to wrap up.
Well, I was just going to say, my dad was in the wholesale meat business.
Okay.
And he was very shocked and he felt really that they did not want to bring meat that had all those antibiotics or whatever they gave the meat. He wanted to have good meat that was wholesome and didn't have whatever they were giving the animals to grow bigger and fatter, and he, I guess, really felt what we would call the most natural way.
Okay.
That the food was better, that when we eat organic food, or that we had meat, that the animals ate regular food and not mess.
It's so funny. There's a whole service now that brings, I forget the name of it. We had it for like a year. It's called like ugly fruit.
Yes.
And it's all the misshapen, funky sized fruit and vegetables that you get at a discount because they don't sell it at Whole Foods. And we did that for a year because we couldn't cook it fast enough. So we stopped using it. The last thing I would just say is this practice of making offerings and sacrifices, that wasn't our invention. That was a thing that people were doing for a long time. And one of the things we chose not to do was to sacrifice humans. And then when our temple was destroyed, we stopped making sacrifices and we transformed it into using that structure to make prayers. And I think it is very important. I know there's many elements of the Torah, and one of the things that people love to tell me is how they don't like God or don't believe in God. And it's funny that the people often who don't believe in God also don't like God, but I'm like, you don't believe in God, why don't you? Anyways, but what we often don't like is the God that shows up in the Torah. We don't like that we stone homosexuals in the Torah. We don't like that we are supposed to stone wayward children in the Torah. And there's no history of us doing any of those things, but it's still in the text and there's still an evolution of it. So I think when things feel particularly pokey in the Torah for our modern sensibilities, I do think it is important. It doesn't mean that we should embrace them, but it means we should understand the context from which they come and how they've evolved over time. And what I would say, particularly around God, is our rabbis quickly, emasculate God basically and take the power away from God and put it into their hands because they're the rabbis, but they also put it into our hands that we're doing this thing where we're supposed to walk in God's way and tamim, and that we're supposed to become tamim, and that's our work. We don't ask for God to do that for us. We need to do that work ourselves. So may it be, I see a hand up. I mean, go ahead. Is that, can't see who it is.
One of the things that I was happy to read in the Parsha of this week is that within the Parsha, if you can't afford the animal, if you can't afford that perfect animal with no blemish, that there are ways that we can still give our best, like as they mentioned, birds or grain. So you're not excluded because you're not you're not as wealthy as the next person, or you can choose to bring something and not have it be an animal. You can have something else, and it can be accepted by God in the same way.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, and as it goes, there's many of those exceptions in our tradition that seem to be, so much of our tradition is defined by the exception to the rule that we put out there to say that this is the way it's supposed to be, and also just other considerations like keeping Shabbat, that it's not just for the Israelites, but it's also for their workers and even for their animals should be at rest. Well, may this be a day of rest and rejuvenation for us, and maybe that Gary's teaching and offering and Bill's beautiful Torah reading bring us just like a little bit closer on our own journey to coming to meet. Invite you to rise for the Alinu on page 282. Alinu l'shabeach lanu hakol, l'tekin alav sefer reshi, shelo asanu pidui haratzot, velo samanu mishpashot ha'adamah, shelo samanu lahem, vegor alinu kechol hamonam, anav ori. Umishtachavim umodim lefneihem mafei hamalkim hakadosh baruch. Page 287. V'neh v'haya Adonai lamelech hayom hahu hayom hahu. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation, whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. As we recite Kaddish this morning, we especially remember LBT member Shirley Mantel Friedman, whom death has taken from us recently. We link her name with Don Ball, Pearl Berger, Minnie Bruckman, Charles Brucker, Irving Brucker, Benson Clymer, Michael Cohn, Shirley Crane, Justin Danchik, Leroy Davidson, Joshua Gluckstern-Reese, Sylvan Goldberg, Clara Greenberg Braid, Leah Handler, Ruth Heckler, Lena Holes, Samuel Hutman Jr., Emmanuel Lazars, Rose Lieberman, Nancy Lifland, Robert Lowe, Victor Luber, Eve Millman, Irving Marish, Nellie Mossbacher, Marion Pleasance, Esther Portnow, Elaine Bunchy Roger, Shirley Rubenstein, Beatrice Schneider, Jimmy Schwartz, Samuel David Solway, Gatel Soames, Elm Weingarten, Helena Weingarten, Ann Volkov, Ann Zinner. If there are others that you are thinking of, I invite you to raise your hand and speak the name aloud.
My mother, Esther, wants to be.
If there are people who are online that want to speak the name of someone that you're thinking of, please raise your hand.
Yard site for my father, Martin Glassman.
Are there others online who want to speak a name? Invite you to rise so we can read the Kaddish together. You can find the words on page 294. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rabah, Yalma, Dibra, Hirute, Yamlich, Malchute, V'chayachon, V'vechon, V'chayei, D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, V'izman, Kari, V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Omei Amaya. Yiparach V'ishtavach V'yipar V'yiraman V'yinaseh. V'tadar V'taleh V'talal Shmei Kudashah B'richu. Leila Min Kol Berachata V'sherata. Tushbachata V'nechemata. Dami Aran V'alma V'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu V'al Yisrael. Bimru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimroma, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael, Bimru Amen. May their memories continue to be a blessing in our lives. If you have a little wine, I invite you to, there is wine here on the shelf. It's over here. It's somewhere. There it is. Will you hand it out? And, you know, I was telling Linda, I felt like the LBT Women was sponsoring us getting to do a shot of tequila on the way out the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Please do. Okay.
We're just handing out the wine. It's all happening.
Yes, it says juice there.
I think it's all juice. All juice. Move it along, Alan. Come on, man. This is like, we have a wine aficionado here. We're working with grape juice.
We want Manischewitz.
Oh, Manischewitz, I know.
With a February vintage.
Oh, February was excellent. February was an excellent month. Ooh, I like that.
What did he say?
I'm not repeating it. Okay. Because I'm going to use it later. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
I think so.
Just all juice.
Oh, juice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's juice.
Yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
I have this holy challah. I don't know if anybody online has a challah too that you want to lift up, but I really hope that may it be God's will that we continue to be able to meet in person, and that anybody who's online, if you're ever able to come, we would love to have you. And as it works for you to continue to be online, and if that works for you, we're so delighted that you're with us. So let us join together as we bless this challah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat shalom. May you have a sweet Shabbos. Special shout out to Richard for helping with tech work, and for all of you for joining us, and for everybody who came in here for Shabbat. It's just great to be with you. Shabbat shalom.
Benjamin.
Bye. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. You know, if you want to. Have a great Shabbos, everyone. Take care.
Bye, Benjamin. Thank you.